The Galactic Military Academy's training ground stretched across the crimson plains of Kepler 442b, where the gravity pulled at 1.3 times Earth standard, and the thin atmosphere made every breath a conscious effort. Cadet Sarah Chen stood among her alien classmates, her compact human frame dwarfed by the towering Valkyrie warriors and the sleek, four-armed Zephyrians. "Today's exercise is simple," announced Instructor Thakmor, his mandibles clicking with authority. The insectoid hivekin gestured toward the endless expanse ahead. "A basic endurance run, 100 kilometers. The first 20 to finish advance to the next phase of training." Snickers rippled through the assembled cadets. Vextol, a hulking Valkyrie with arms like tree trunks, glanced down at Sarah with undisguised amusement. "Human, you should probably conserve your energy for the remedial courses. Your species wasn't built for this." The other aliens nodded in agreement. Everyone knew the statistics. Humans ranked dead last in the Galactic Physical Capability Index. Their fragile bones, inefficient cardiovascular systems, and pathetic muscle density made them suitable only for technical positions, safely behind the lines where their supposed intelligence might actually be useful. Sarah said nothing, simply adjusting the hydration pack on her shoulders and checking her breathing apparatus. She had heard it all before during the 6 months since joining the academy, the whispered comments about humanity's admission being a diversity quota, the predictions that no human would ever see real combat, the barely concealed pity from instructors who wondered why Earth had even bothered applying for military alliance. "Cadets, take your positions," Thakmor commanded. The starting line buzzed with nervous energy. Zephyrians flexed their forearms, their dual heart systems already pumping oxygenated blue blood at optimal efficiency. Valkyrie warriors pawed the ground with feet designed for their homeworld's crushing 3G environment. The crystalline resonance hummed in harmonic frequencies that supposedly enhanced their cellular regeneration. Sarah crouched into a runner's stance, her movements drawing more chuckles from nearby cadets. "Look at the human trying to mimic proper form," wheezed Klaxon, a gaseous being whose form rippled with condensation. "This will be over in the first kilometer." The starting horn blared. Immediately, the alien cadets exploded forward in a thunderous stampede. Valkyrie bounded across the terrain in massive leaps, each stride covering 10 meters. Zephyrians moved in elegant flowing motions, their forearms pumping in perfect synchronization. The resonance glided across the surface, their crystalline bodies refracting the twin suns into dazzling light shows. Sarah simply began to run. Her pace seemed almost laughably slow compared to the explosive start of her classmates. Within minutes, the pack had left her far behind, disappearing into heat shimmers on the horizon. Instructor Thakmor shook his head and made a notation on his datapad, another human failure to document. But as the hours passed, something unexpected began to happen. The first to fall behind were the resonants, their energy-efficient forms overheating under the relentless twin suns. Then the Zephyrians started to falter, their complex four-armed coordination breaking down as fatigue set in. Even the mighty Valkyrie began to slow, their powerful muscles consuming oxygen faster than their single hearts could supply. Yet somewhere behind them all, Sarah maintained her steady rhythm. Her breathing never changed, a consistent 4-count inhale, 4-count exhale pattern that her instructors back on Earth had drilled into her during endless training runs through Death Valley and the Sahara. Her stride remained economical, her feet striking the ground with practiced efficiency, her arms moving in the relaxed swing that conserved energy over vast distances. By the end of the first day, half the class had dropped out, their bodies pushed beyond sustainable limits. Emergency medical teams collected cadets suffering from heat exhaustion, cardiac stress, and complete muscular failure. The remaining aliens pressed on, driven by pride and the certainty that the pathetic human must have quit hours ago. They were wrong. As Kepler 442b's twin suns set on the second day, painting the sky in violent purples and oranges, only 12 cadets remained on the course. Among them, impossibly, was the small figure of Sarah Chen, still maintaining that same mechanical pace, still breathing in that same controlled rhythm. Vextol, the Valkyrie who had mocked her at the start, stumbled and collapsed after 97 kilometers, his massive frame betrayed by a cardiovascular system designed for short bursts of incredible power rather than sustained effort. As medical drones carried him away, he caught sight of Sarah jogging past with barely a glance in his direction. The third day dawned with only 5 cadets still moving. 3 hivekin, their distributed nervous systems allowing them to compartmentalize fatigue, pushed forward on sheer determination. A single Zephyrian, enhanced with cybernetic implants, mechanically placed one foot in front of the other. And Sarah. She had entered what Earthrunners called the zone, that transcendent state where conscious thought faded and the body became a perfectly calibrated machine. Her breathing remained steady. Her heart rate held constant at the aerobic threshold she had trained to maintain for days at a time. Her legs, evolved from millions of years of persistence hunting across African savannas, continued their ancient rhythm. The Academy's monitoring stations tracked her biometrics in growing amazement. Her lactate levels remained stable. Her core temperature held steady despite the punishing heat. Most impossibly, her glucose metabolism showed the signature of someone who had seamlessly transitioned to burning stored fat reserves, a biological switch that could sustain her for weeks if necessary. On the afternoon of the third day, Instructor Thakmor received an urgent communication from Academy Command. The exercise had been terminated. Medical staff were demanding the immediate evacuation of all remaining cadets before permanent damage occurred. All except one. Cadet Sarah Chen crossed the original finish line at exactly the 72-hour mark, having completed not 100 kilometers but nearly 400. She stopped, performed a series of cool-down stretches and calmly hydrated while waiting for transport back to the academy. The alien cadets who had mocked her endurance could only watch from medical beds as she stood at attention during the debrief, showing no signs of the ordeal that had broken the galaxy's supposedly superior warrior races. "Cadet Chen," Instructor Thakmor said, his voice carrying a new note of respect. "Perhaps you could explain to the class how a fragile human accomplished what none of our finest specimens could manage." Sarah's response was delivered in the same calm, measured tone she had maintained throughout the run. "Sir, humans weren't built to be the fastest or the strongest. We were built to outlast everything else." In the silence that followed, the Academy's understanding of human potential began its fundamental revision. The galaxy's newest military allies, it seemed, brought something far more valuable than raw power to the Alliance. They brought the relentless, terrifying endurance of a species that had once hunted mammoth by simply running them to death across endless plains.